Welcome to the 11th edition of Drive-Thru Review. We're going to be talking about Samurai by Dr. Reiner Knizia. It's a tile placement area control game. It's fantastic. It came out in the 1990s, part of his tile laying trilogy. Uh, Arguably the best of the three. I personally, I think it's right there with Tigris and Euphrates. It just kind of depends on what kind of mood you're in. And it's got great components, beautiful artwork on all the components in the box. And the theme is you could probably go back and forth, but it actually suits feudal Japan, I think, and in the sort of the island uh, nature of Japan and how as far as the area control goes, I think it suits it quite well. Um, I'm going to start off by showing you how you actually score the game and then get into actually how you play. That seems to be the best way to teach people how to play the game. And then I'll show you how to play the game and then give you a little bit of my thoughts.
Okay, so the objective of this game is to collect these little totems, so to speak. So you've got three kinds. You've got these little rice paddy looking things, and these are considered the merchant rulers. And then you've also got these Buddha looking totems, and that's considered the religious leaders. And then you've got the helmet here, which is considered the military leaders. And what you're trying to do is get a majority in at least one of those groups. You're not going for just the total amount of items here that you're trying to get. You're trying to get a majority in at least one of the groups, if not two. So in this particular case, let's say this is the end of the game. You've got player 1 on the left and player 2 on the right. Now, player 2 has a majority of helmets because he's got 5, and player 1 only has 1. Player 1 has the majority of Buddhas because he's got 4 and player 2 has 3. Now player 1 in this case has also the majority of rice paddies. So he's got 3 and he's got 1. And in this case, he's an immediate winner because he has the majority in two groups. He's got the majority in rice paddies and Buddhas. And he only has the majority in helmets. In this case, so he wins the game, even though they have an equal number of total items. So let's say this was the endgame configuration. Player 2 has the majority of helmets, 5-1. Player 1 has the majority of rice paddies, 3-1. And there's no clear majority of Buddhas, so we don't count those for right now. So each of them has a majority. It doesn't matter how much you have a majority by. So helmets and rice paddies. So what you do in that case, and so far they're basically tied because they have one group to one group. Think of them like electoral votes. You know, you may get more popular votes in a country, but you won Florida or you won Texas. So player 1 wins Texas, player 2 wins Florida. So we take those out of the equation, and then we compare the rest. So in this case, we still have a tie because they both have 5 pieces left over after you take out their majorities. So the next step that you will compare is the total amount. In this case, player 2 will win because he's got more total pieces. So let's look at a setup for a 2-player game. Now this board is somewhat modular. As you can see, it comes in 4 pieces. In the case of a 2-player game, we just set up the main island here. If we had a 3 or 4-player game, we may add these extra pieces on this side as well as this side here to give everybody a little bit more room. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to set up all of these little black pieces here. So with a 2-player game, you have 7 of each of these out. So what happens is each player going clockwise around the table is going to actually place these in the cities. You can see there's the blue cities here that just have one little house, and these will hold one item. The capital Edo will hold one of each item for 3 total, and these little red towns will hold 2. Now, in the red towns, they have to be 2 different items. You can't have 2 Buddhas or 2 helmets or 2 rice in there. You've got to be 2 different items, and the same with Edo. So let me just go ahead and set that up real quick. Okay, so now the game's set up, and each player gets a screen matching the color of the tiles that they'll start with. And normally these tiles will be behind the screen, but obviously I'm going to show them. Everybody gets the exact same 20 tiles. And in the beginner game, you're just going to start with 5 random tiles. But in the advanced game, you'll actually go through and pick your starting 5 tiles and then shuffle the rest of the tiles. So what's going to happen in a turn is you're going to play a tile and then draw back up to 5. So what do you do with the tiles? Well, with the tiles, you're trying to capture each of these little towns here and then have the majority in whatever particular faction or grouping you're trying to get. And then you'll consume that piece. So for example, if it were Blue's turn, he may play this Buddha with a 4. So he may put it right here. And what that means is that he's exerting 4 points worth of influence on any adjacent city. So now he has 4 influence on this Buddha and this Buddha. It doesn't affect the rice paddy. Okay, so if he had played this here, this is a 3 rice paddy, it's going to influence this rice paddy by 3, but it's pretty much dead weight when it comes to influencing this Buddha. So this you can see is a much better play because it's able to influence 2 cities at one time, whereas this one's only influencing the 1 city. Now if red comes along and he plays this 3 Buddha here, he's going to play it here, and he's going to have 3 influence on this one. So he's losing out to blue, but he's also got 3 influence started on this one here. But red has a trick up his sleeve. He's going to play the samurai. Now, the samurais are able to influence any of these black totems, okay? So if I put this one here, now I've got 5 influence on this Buddha because samurais influence any, and this one is specific for Buddhas, so it'll influence that. This samurai is also influencing both of these items with 2 points. So red's going to come in here and he's going to play this 3. Now in this case, we've surrounded 2 cities here. So really this city would have been surrounded on the previous turn, but I'm just trying to get the board set up to illustrate for you how it works. So as soon as a city is totally surrounded by the land tiles, these C tiles don't count. I'll talk about those in a minute. As soon as those are surrounded, the city is immediately scored. So let's just score these 2 cities to see how it works. So in this case, it's obvious that red is the only one influencing this city. So he's going to take and he's going to put this behind his screen, this Buddha. And now we're going to look at each of these totems and see who wins what. So let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so first let's look at the Buddha. Okay, now the blue has 4 influence on there. The red has 3 influence, but he's also got 2 more influence from the samurai. So he's going to win the Buddha there as well. Now the rice paddy is under a similar circumstance. He's got 3 rice influence. He's got 3 rice influence, but that samurai comes and steals the rest of it for him. So you kind of get the idea. You play a tile, then you draw back up to 5. And then you keep going. If any cities are surrounded, score the city and then consume the totem. Now there are a couple of special tiles, and you can see these out there. Now let's look at the first one. Now this is a sea tile, a little ship. So you can play this in the ocean. Now it doesn't count for surrounding the city, but it does count for influence. So if this was like this and I put that there, then it's not counting to surround it. It's got to be surrounded by land first. But the blue player is going to get 1 more influence in this case. This tile has another special thing in that it has a little kanji symbol on the bottom. Not all of these tiles have that. So if you play a tile with a kanji symbol, then you can immediately play another tile. So you can possibly play 2 or even more tiles per turn. So if I played this one with a kanji symbol and then played another one with a kanji symbol, then you could play another one until the last one you played doesn't have a kanji symbol. Okay, there's a couple other unique tiles, and everybody has 1 of each of these. So you have this one and this one here. So this tile here is also has a kanji character. You can see that. And what this one lets you do is swap any one black totem with another black totem. You might say, I want to swap this helmet here with this Buddha for some reason. Maybe you've already got some helmet points here and you want to swap that one over so you can get two at once. Okay, so that's that tile. And then this tile actually lets you swap out one of your own tiles and move it somewhere else. So in this case, we scored this city, let's say, and now this 3 is kind of a dead tile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap that out. I'll put that here, which is now exerting 0 influence on anything around it, and move that 3, say, to over here. As you can see, there's two rice paddies there. So I can move that over there. So everybody's got one of each of those tiles. There's the one that lets you swap one of your tiles out, and the one that lets you swap one of the totems out. So you place the tile, you draw back up to 5, it goes to the next player, he places a tile, anything that gets surrounded gets scored. If there's a tie here, anything that might have been 1, if this was here and there was a tie, then this will actually just go off to the side and nobody will get it. So that's a kind of an interesting mechanism as well. So if you're familiar with Tigris and Euphrates, you can kind of see this is sort of like it's sort of bent on its ear. You've got the real kind of cool island shape, and it's really nice when it comes into play when you've got more than 2 players, because let me just move this here a little bit. So you've got this here, and those boat pieces really come into play, because if you place the boat piece here, you can see it's in between these 2 cities. So you can exert that little extra bit of influence on those 2 cities, to try to capture what's in there. And the other thing, in Tigris Euphrates, you're trying to score all of your colors or factions so that you don't have any one that's really low. Where in this, you're kind of doing the same thing, but not really. You still want to keep a good balance of everything, but you definitely want to have a majority in one faction, and if it's possible. It's a little bit more difficult to do that. Not so much in a 2-player game, let's say, but in a 3 or 4-player game it is. So it's a game that I think takes repeated plays to really get your head around, but it's also not too heavy. I would say it's not really a light game as far as depth goes. I mean, the choices you make are pretty simplistic. There's not a whole lot of choices, and they get narrower and narrower as the game starts out. Your starting setup of 5 tiles is pretty important. And kind of how you space out, your tiles at the beginning, and then obviously your choices become less and less and less. So it plays fast, or at least it should play fast. I know I've seen people get really sort of analysis paralysis with this, and I don't think you really should with this game. I think it's a game that can play quick enough that you could do it once or twice in a row, or play it at a lunch break or something like that. Anyway, like I said, it's a game that's it's very fun. It should play pretty quick. It's got a nice little brain noodler to it. It plays different every time because you're reconfiguring the board every time. It's a game that's been around for a long time. I think it came out in 95 or 96. So, it's been around for a while. And it's definitely still in print. You can get it pretty easily. So I would definitely get it. And I think it works well with a wide variety of folks. Everybody's able to pretty easily understand, okay, I'm going to exert influence on this. And, what these, what all the symbols mean. They're really straightforward. The theme's cool. It's samurais. Who doesn't like samurais, right? And it scales well from 2 to 4. Thanks.